Hey, welcome back on the Good Morning Artesia radio show, and we've got Sheriff Mark Cage with us, and we're kind of talking about how Eddy County handled the rains yesterday. And the good news was the rain kind of stopped, and because if it had continued to rain, the Canal Street Bridge, they may have had to get to that point with it where they wound up not actually closing.
Fortunately.
Yeah. I wonder if that'll fill up the sinkhole.
Oh, my goodness. The money pit hole.
Yeah, exactly.
My gosh.
With what's going on. Let me ask you this, Sheriff. The Tuesday was a big day in New Mexico. Governor had a big post on it. Recreational marijuana is now legal in the state of New Mexico. And as we've been getting closer and closer to that date is now here. How are law enforcement agencies, such as the Sheriff's Department, what adjustments have you been making or are going to be making now that recreational marijuana is legal in New Mexico?
Well, I mean, it's basically hands off unless it's a massive amount of trafficking, and it's just going to be so difficult to... You can't determine between legal and non-legal, really. It's so hard. I mean, because sales is not ready yet.
Correct.
Recreational sales. No later than April 15th. And I'm on the statewide committee to set the regulations for that, which I'm not that proud to say, but I mean...
Well, I'm glad you're there.
It's good to have a conservative voice on there, right?
Yeah.
And for once, a conservative voice is going to be going, tax it. We don't usually say that on the conservative side, but I'm like, if you want to do this, then tax it so that we can have some money funneled to law enforcement and treatment and all these other issues that we're going to have to deal with. Because, I mean, again, I'm not a big tax guy, but I don't know what else to do with this. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we're a thing that's going to really be a problem, and drug dogs. Mm-hmm. Everybody's going to have to retire all their drug dogs. There's no way around it, and purchase new ones. And guess who pays for that?
Right.
Taxpayers.
Because the drug dogs now, marijuana is one of the drugs that they hit on, and some people have said they can deprogram the dogs, but
it's not. You can't take that risk because any decent defense attorney is going to take that and turn your case upside down. Say, well, what if? Reasonable doubt. That's all you have to. And
right.
I mean, we see it. We get it. It's a problem. Carlsbad PD has a very robust canine program. We struggled with ours at the sheriff's office here in past years, and we just couldn't make it succeed that well for whatever reason. No, there's a lot of good reasons for it, but Carlsbad PD's been able to do it, so we support them in that because they support us. Mm-hmm. They're drug dogs and are always available to us, so it's something we're going to have to look at helping them get through because it's such a benefit to the entire county, and Artesia included. But it's an expense.
Right, because you have to train new dogs, and
those dogs aren't cheap.
Right.
And it's a shame. There's a lot of young dogs that are state police doing the same thing. Everybody's having to do it. That brand new dogs that are just going to get retired.
Yeah.
Or maybe utilized in Texas or somewhere that's reasonable.
Sure. Well, and what was interesting was earlier this week, it was on the townhall.com website, Clarence Thomas was doing an interview, and because of the inconsistency of the enforcement of all of these laws, he was pondering whether or not federal marijuana laws are now outdated or no longer
it's coming
necessary.
It's coming. They're gonna take it off the Schedule I narcotics list federally. It's inevitable. Mm-hmm. I understood that in New Mexico. I really did. I'm a realist. I understood it's coming, and it's honestly not the worst thing that we're dealing with. My push and the rest of the sheriff's push across the state was, hey, we get it. It's coming. You're going to do it. let's do it right. And let's put some stuff in place to, and I don't know, say do it right is the correct terminology.
Sure.
But let's at least mitigate this. Let's make sure we have everything in place. And what did they do? They had a year and 60 days to do it. A year, and they knew they were going to do this. They knew there were problems. That's why they didn't pass the bill.
Mm-hmm.
And then the governor strong arms everybody.
Right.
Says you're going to do this, and calls a special session for that.
Right.
And so now we have a terrible structure set up to handle this because it wasn't thought through. It wasn't planned out. And so now it's kind of like the old the Obamacare. Well, just put it in place, and then we'll read it and figure it out.
That was Nancy Pelosi.
And we'll work our way through that. Well, that's what this is.
Yeah.
So that's the board I'm on now has to come and pick up the pieces and figure out, okay, how do we make this happen now that it's law?
Right. And there's some, the cities and the counties have some say-so, but not a lot. In other words, they can't say, no, there will be no sales of this going on.
There's no opt-out. There's no local opt-out.
Right. The only thing they can do is maybe put some, well, you can't have it near a school or you can't have it near a church or something.
You can do some zoning things.
Yeah.
However, our county has no zoning. We don't, everybody, the folks in the county have been resistant to zoning.
Right.
And said, no, we don't want that. Well, here's where it's going to become a problem.
Right, because the cities can do it, Carlsbad can do it, Artesia can do it, but you get out into the county and it's...
Yeah, municipalities, all the municipalities have their zoning, and they can make new rules and all that. But as far as the county goes, when you have no zoning, it's very difficult to come in and go and, do it piecemeal.
Right.
And it leaves itself open for legal challenge.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of half joking on the air the other day. I mean, I've got 3 acres of land down here with the towers on, and, we can't really do anything with it because the tower's on it.
It's going to be a lucrative business. There's going to be some folks get
I
rich.
might be leasing it out to a farmer.
People are already getting rich off the medical.
I know.
Have gotten rich.
I know.
And this is just going to open up a whole different facet.
Yeah.
And
it'll be kind of an interesting juxtaposition because we'll have the farmer growing the stuff on the land, and we'll have Buck Sexton and Clay Travis emanating from the and Mark Levin and Sean Hannity emanating from the airwaves there. So let's do that. Now we mentioned about the floodwaters to Texas. According to Woods, who would know. Unfortunately, only 50% of the floodwaters go towards the compact.
Oh, well, how about that?
So 50%, I guess, is better.
That's better than nothing.
Than nothing. Let's see. Here's another. If we tax marijuana for treatment, mental health, it's not a tax. It's a prepayment plan. And that's an interesting observation, looking at that. And it's funny. They tax... because you're on this committee, they're going to be talking about this. We tax cigarettes. And the purpose of the extremely high taxes on the cigarettes is in part to discourage the smoking of the cigarettes. So I think a lot of people are going to be educated on basic economics and taxation policy on this committee that you're going to be on.
Right.
You're trying to do that.
Right.
What level of taxation do we discourage the activity? And at what level of taxation do we generate the most amount of revenue from the activity?
And there's been a lot of talk about, if you tax it too high, you're going to contribute to the black market. The black market is going to thrive no matter what. And I think that's what folks have been a little naive to, who have pushed all this narrative about this is going to end the black market. No, it's not. The black market is going to thrive with this, because how do we tell the difference? And how much effort do we put into telling the difference between legal and non-legal? We've got so many other crimes and so many other duties we have to deal with. Okay, is this weed legal or is this weed legal? We're not going to have a whole lot of time or resources.
Mm-hmm.
So the black market is going to be just fine. The black market is going to be even more robust than it is now, and
they're going to have access to product that they can then export into other non-legal states.
Yeah, contrary to all these folks' beliefs that this is going to end the black market, no, it's just going to bolster it.
Yeah. What is your department? What have you seen? The border security has been a big issue, and I've noticed that other states like South Dakota and I think Florida have been sending guard to Texas.
Yeah.
To help Texas with help. Their people are just exhausted, and I'm sure our people are too down on the border here with all the mass migration that's coming across the border. What have you seen in New Mexico? What have you seen here in Eddy County in that area?
We're not seeing a big problem with it right now. Now, drugs, yes. The drugs is always, and that 90% of the illegal narcotics in the United States comes from our southern border.
When you say our, you mean the countries or New Mexico?
Our countries.
Okay.
That's just a fact.
Mm-hmm.
That is a fact. And you can try and gloss that over, and folks do. Oh, it's drugs going to come to America. No, they're not. They're going to come through our open borders where they're going to come from. I just came back from Phoenix at the National Sheriff's Association, and we were invited, several of us sheriffs, by an organization that is for the federal something for immigration reform, Federal Association, I believe.
Okay.
And they're like, immigration is wonderful. That's what our country's based upon. However, it needs to be done legally, and that's what I think that's what most people are saying. Now we have some.
No. Even today, the polling data is showing that they don't support the way it's being handled now, and many people, myself included, harken back to the way it was being handled just a year or two ago.
Right.
So I think that's from the population standpoint that the American people are in favor of controlling the borders, closing the borders down.
Why wouldn't you want to control who's in your country?
Mm-hmm.
It's just common sense. Because here's the thing, and we had a big briefing in FAIR took us and put us up in Sierra Vista.
Okay.
Right there on the border in Arizona. And we had a brief. We had a half a day briefing from different folks about what's going on. And then we went to the wall. And it was very eye-opening because, I mean, I'm pretty educated on it, but I realized I wasn't as educated as I thought I was. It's a disaster. It is an absolute disaster. This isn't a matter of Mexican nationals illegally coming across the border. This is, and there's quite a bit, but we're talking Nicaraguan, we're talking Dominican Republic, we're talking Middle Eastern. Everybody is coming across our open border. Everybody.
So all they have to do is get into Mexico or Guatemala or Ecuador or anywhere. They just get there and then just start making their way up.
Exactly. And they're bringing horrific things with them into our country. And guess what? You know, they're like, oh, it's terrible down there on the border. We're a pass-through.
Mm-hmm.
You know where they're going? They're going to the Northeast. And there's a saying, what happens in our front yard today is in their backyard 2 days from now. And that's how long it takes to get them. My buddy is Thomas Hodgson, Sheriff Thomas Hodgson in Bristol County, Massachusetts. They have the highest in Massachusetts. They have the highest concentration of illegal aliens in the country.
Are they getting there on their own, or are these the buses that we're taking them on? And
there's a whole network, yes.
Wow.
And here's the other part that we found out getting briefed is the new thing is, and of course, no one wants to see families separated. That was a big hot button issue. But I'm here to tell you that law enforcement's been separating families since its inception. We arrest somebody, we're separating families. That happens. But the children were used as political pawns, and now, because of all the policies that have been undone by our current administration, children are being used for all kinds of trafficking. They bring them over, and guess what we're doing? They get put in these facilities to be cared for humanely, which they need to be, and it's taking all of Border Patrol's resources to be babysitters, so it's pulling them off the border. Who do you think benefits from that? The cartels.
Sure, because there's nobody on the border doing any patrolling.
So who's organizing this?
The cartels. And they're sending the kids across because they know that's going to occupy our people.
And guess what? Then the kids, their families, we, tax dollars, we're paying to fly their families over to be with the children so they're not separated, and we're paying to house them.
Okay. To me, I'm going to say that is backwards.
It's insanity.
We should be identifying who the parents are, getting the kids and say, we're sending your kid to you. And the plane should be going full that way,
right?
Taking the kids back to their families.
We stopped the stay in Mexico policy.
Right. That was immediate.
That President Trump had set up, and
Mexico was helping with that.
Mexico was. They were on board. They're like, we get it, we understand, we're going to help. No, now we're not. Now it's just free for all.
Yeah.
So here's the other problem, and these were the other briefings we had. And we had briefings that we had to hang our heads. We had the biggest contingent of sheriffs there, New Mexico did, for this in Arizona. The biggest. We had a group of about 8 of us.
Okay.
And we're in these briefings, and we have the Texans talking about bragging on their governor, Abbott, saying, hey, he said enough's enough. We're shutting this down. We need help, though. We're reaching out to the other governors. Well, Ducey in Arizona rogered up, said, yep, I'm there with you. We're going to do it too. We're going to shut it down, and we're going to support you.
Okay.
DeSantis in Florida said, I'm going to send people. You were alluding to this earlier. I'm going to send people to help. Oklahoma, I think eight states in total, right as of then, said, yep, we're going to help you. We're going to send law enforcement officers, and if we need National Guard to come help you, we're going to send them. We're going to help you out. Well, what do you think the 8 sheriffs from New Mexico did? We just went. Oh.
Yeah. Couldn't say anything because you or New Mexico and California are not going to participate in any of this. So is this actually? When is this? Is this starting to get implemented now?
It's
So
in
are
progress.
And the federal government isn't stopping this from happening?
They can't.
Okay. Because I know Ducey is the governor of Arizona now, but I think Jan Brewer was the governor before him, and she tried to do this and got slapped down by Obama and the federal government. Said, no, you can't. We handle policy. You can't do that.
I think there's going to be an uprising over this, and I think they're going to go no. But guess what happens to us?
Well, I was going to say
it's we become a fatal funnel.
Right. Because we're the opening in the gap. We're the gap in the wall if the security gets tightened in Texas and Arizona.
Up until now, we've not had a huge problem because ours is not the most desirable route.
Okay.
There's no populations where folks can disseminate into and kind of disappear before they head up to the northeast. And it's rocky, it's rough terrain, very rough terrain. But now it's going to be there. It's like electricity and water. The flow goes to the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And what are we going to do?
Yeah. We need to take a break real quick. We'll talk more with Sheriff Mark Cage about this. Please don't go away. We'll be back right after this.